The unseen girl. The marketplace was loud. Ships landed, traders shouted, lights flashed, but no one saw her. She sat quietly near a broken food stall. Her body was small, too small for her species. Her skin was dull gray, not the shining silver others had. Her eyes were wide, scared, and tired. Her name was Rivka, but no one ever said it. To most aliens, she didn't even exist. To them, she was nothing. Not female, not useful, just a leftover from a war that killed her parents. Just another orphan thrown away by the system. She had lived like this for years, sleeping behind broken vents, stealing scraps, drinking dirty water. No one helped her, and worse, no one wanted her. In her culture, girls were chosen young, claimed, mated, trained to serve. But Rivka had been ignored. Not once had anyone shown interest. The elders whispered, "She's cursed, small and useless." She told herself not to cry. Crying wasted water. Water was survival. She sat still, holding her knees, as tall alien males walked by with their mates. The females had bright scales, long tails, proud faces. Rivka had none of that. She was weak, broken, invisible. And then, something changed. A human had entered the marketplace. He didn't shout. He didn't push. He walked slowly, looking around with curious eyes. His clothes were dusty, his boots were old, but he stood tall. Rivka had never seen a human this close. She had heard stories, dangerous, wild, full of passion and strange kindness. Some aliens feared them, others respected them, but they didn't come here often. This human paused near the broken stall. Rivka froze. She thought he would walk past like everyone else, but he didn't. He turned and looked directly at her. She panicked. No one ever looked at her. His eyes narrowed, not in anger, not in disgust, but something else. Something soft, gentle. "Hey," he said, kneeling down a little. "Are you okay?" Rivka couldn't answer. Her voice refused to come out. Her mind screamed, "Don't trust. Don't speak. He'll hurt you." But he didn't move closer. He just waited. Her small hands trembled. He looked at her for a few more seconds, then reached into his satchel and pulled out a wrapped piece of warm flatbread. Slowly, he placed it on the ground between them. Then he stood. "No pressure," he said. "You look hungry. I won't bother you." And then he walked away. Rivka stared at the bread. She waited. 1 minute, 2, 3. No one came to take it. No one attacked her. Slowly, she reached forward and grabbed the bread with both hands. It was warm, real, soft, not stolen, not dirty. She bit into it, and for the first time in her memory, she cried. Not from pain, but from kindness. She didn't sleep that night. Her heart beat fast, not because of fear, but hope. A dangerous, warm hope. The next day, she returned to the same spot. She didn't expect him to come back, but he did. Walked by again, saw her, and gave a small smile. "You stayed," he said. "That's good." This time, he sat across from her on the ground. He didn't speak much, just placed a small bottle of clean water in front of her. "I'm Mark," he said, pointing to himself. "Mark." She stared at him. He pointed to her gently. "You?" she whispered, barely loud enough. "Rivka." He smiled wider. "Rivka, that's a nice name." No one had ever said that to her. No one had ever said her name with respect. That day she drank clean water. She didn't steal it. She didn't fight for it. It was given freely by a human. The next day, and the day after Mark returned, he never pushed her. He never asked for anything. Just brought small things, food, water, even a soft cloth for her to sleep on. And he talked about his travels, about the stars, about strange creatures he met, and slowly, Rivka began to speak back, just a little, just enough to make him smile. But not everyone liked what they saw. Others in the market began to whisper, Why is that human talking to her? She's not even a real female. She's dirty, weak, trash. Mark heard them. He ignored them. But Rivka heard them too, and it hurt. That night, she looked up at the stars and asked the sky, "Why does he see me, when no one else ever did?" She didn't know the answer, but her world had started to change, and it began with a simple act. A human saw her. Rivka sat under the broken roof of a junk stall, hugging her knees. Her eyes followed the human from a distance. Mark. That was his name. For 3 days now he had brought her food, water, and even a small cloth. He spoke softly to her, never touched her without permission, never shouted. He smiled like she mattered, but Rivka couldn't understand why. Why me? I'm nothing. The other aliens stared at her every time he came. Their eyes were full of anger, mockery, and disgust. She heard their whispers even from far away. That human must be sick in the head. Maybe he feels sorry for the broken thing. She's not even worth claiming. She's no female. Their words cut deeper than knives. Her own kind had rejected her long ago. Her body was too small. Her tail was too short. Her scales were dull. When she came of age, no male had stepped forward, not even one. And in her society, that meant she was worthless, not chosen, not claimed, not wanted. Some girls in the slums were taken forcefully. Others offered themselves for survival. But Rivka? No one even bothered with her. She had offered once, shaking, terrified, to a traitor who laughed in her face. You? You're not even a real female. Those words had never left her mind. But now, a human looked at her differently, and that scared her more than hunger ever did. That evening, Mark returned again. He sat down across from her like always, placing a small box on the ground. "I brought something," he said. She blinked. Inside the box was a small bar of soap and a folded piece of cloth. A dress, simple, old, but clean. "I thought maybe you'd want something better to wear. If not, it's okay," he said quickly. Rivka didn't speak. She stared at the gift like it was fire. Dangerous. Warm. No one had ever given her clothes. The ones she wore were dirty rags she had stitched from scraps. "I can leave it here," Mark said softly. "You don't have to talk." He stood to go. But this time, she spoke. "Why?" He turned. "Why are you helping me?" she asked, voice shaking. "I am not female. Not to them." Mark looked confused. "Who says that?" She pointed toward the market, toward the aliens who always whispered. "Them. Everyone. No one ever wanted me. Not even to use. I am too small, too ugly, too nothing." He knelt slowly. "That's not true," he said. "You're more than they see. They're blind. I see someone brave, someone strong." She looked down, silent. Mark's voice became softer. "You didn't give up. You're still alive. That takes strength." She held the cloth tighter. "No one ever gave me anything," she whispered. "Not until you." Mark's eyes were warm. "Well, get used to it." That night, Rivka didn't sleep. She kept looking at the dress beside her. She held it like treasure. She didn't wear it yet. Not because she didn't want to, but because she didn't feel worthy. But deep inside her heart, something small and dangerous began to grow. Hope. Next day, something different happened. As Rivka waited at the edge of the market, a large alien male approached her. His face was rough, his eyes mean. "You think the human will make you his female?" he growled. Rivka froze. "You bring shame to your kind. Sitting with him like you matter." He shoved her shoulder. She fell. Before he could step forward again, a strong hand grabbed his arm. Mark. He had arrived just in time. "Back off," Mark said coldly. "This is not your world, human," the alien hissed. "She is a nothing, just filth." Mark's grip tightened. She's more than you'll ever be. The crowd gathered. Aliens whispered, some shocked that a human defended her, some laughed, expecting violence. But Mark didn't raise his fist. He simply stood between the alien and Rivka. "I'll say it once," he said. "Walk away." The alien growled. But he left. Mark turned around. Rivka was still on the ground, trembling. He helped her up gently. "You okay?" She nodded slowly. "You didn't have to do that," she whispered. "He'll come back." "Let him," Mark said. "I'm not afraid." She looked up at him. "Why are you doing this?" she asked again. Mark gave a small smile. "Because someone should have done it a long time ago." Her chest hurt, her heart raced. No one had ever stood for her. No one had ever looked her in the eye and said she mattered. And now, one human had. The air was cold that morning, but Rivka's hands were warm, for the first time in years. Wrapped in the soft old dress Mark gave her, she sat quietly on the edge of the market square. Her back still ached from the fall yesterday. The angry, alien male hadn't returned, but his words stayed in her head like poison. "You think the human will make you his female?" Her cheeks burned at the thought. Not because she hoped for it. No. She didn't dare to hope. But something inside. Her chest moved whenever she saw Mark. She didn't understand it. It scared her. But it was also warm. That morning Mark came again. But this time he didn't carry food in a box. He had a plate, a real one, with real food, fresh and hot. A small container of cooked roots, pieces of meat, and a warm, folded bread. Mark sat down beside her and placed the plate on a wooden crate between them. Then he did something strange. He brought out a second plate. Same food, same warmth. He set it down in front of Rivka. She looked at it confused. "You eat too," he said casually, picking up his own fork. She stared at the food like it was a trap. I don't understand." Mark smiled. "Well, I don't like eating alone, but I always wait until you're gone. I eat after." "You don't have to do that anymore," he said gently. "You're not just some ghost in the shadows, Rivka. You sit here. I sit here. That means you eat here, like me." Her eyes burned, but she held back the tears. Slowly, her hand reached out and she took a bite. It was still warm, still real, still hers. They sat in silence, both chewing slowly. Mark spoke first. "I used to share meals with my sister back home. She talked too much." He chuckled. "Now, I miss her voice." Rivka looked at him. "Where is she?" "Gone," he said, voice quieter now. "After the war, she didn't come back." "I'm sorry," she whispered. Mark shrugged, trying to smile. "You get used to it, or you pretend you do." Rivka stared at her plate. "I understand." And Mark knew she did. She looked up again. "You could have eaten anywhere. Why here?" He leaned back, thinking. I just noticed you. And I wanted to. No one ever notices me." "I did," he said. That simple answer shook something inside her. Later that day, something strange happened. Two female aliens from a nearby stall passed by. One of them scoffed loudly. "Look at her sitting there like she's someone." The other one laughed. "Maybe the human has bad eyes." Mark didn't say a word, but Rivka saw the anger in his jaw, the way his hand clenched slightly. "Mark," she whispered. He turned to her. "They're right," she said. "No," he replied quickly. "They're not. They are. I don't belong here. I don't belong anywhere." Mark stared at her for a long moment. Then he stood up, walked to the two females and said just loud enough for others to hear, "She has more strength than both of you put together. You mock her because she survived what you never could." The aliens looked shocked, then turned away, red with embarrassment. Mark returned and sat beside Rivka again. "Don't let their weakness become your truth," he said. She didn't respond, but deep inside, something cracked and light entered the broken place. That night, Rivka didn't sleep near the trash heaps. Instead, she followed Mark back to his small, temporary shelter, a half-broken freighter parked near the edge of the colony. He opened the door and let her inside. "You can rest here," he said. "There's a bed, it's small but warm." "I've never slept in a bed," she admitted. He nodded. "Then tonight's the first time." She stepped in slowly, careful not to dirty anything. The space was simple. Bare walls, a toolkit, a bed, a small heating unit. But to her, it was heaven. Mark handed her a blanket. She clutched it like it was made of gold. He turned to leave the room, but she stopped him. "Why are you so kind?" He looked back. "Because someone was kind to me once. Saved my life. I never got to repay them. But maybe this is how I honor that kindness." She stared at him for a long time. "You're different," she said. He smiled. "So are you." She sat on the bed, unsure how to sleep in it, but she wrapped the blanket around her body and closed her eyes. And for the first time in years, she slept without fear. In the morning when she woke, the smell of food filled the room. She stepped out, rubbing her eyes. Mark was cooking something, over a small burner. He saw her and smiled. "Good morning, Rivka. Hope you're hungry." She smiled shyly. "Yes," she said. "I am." And for the first time ever, she was welcome at the table. Rivka stood beside Mark in the marketplace holding a small basket filled with supplies. It was the first time she had walked so openly, without hiding behind crates or shadows. Her steps were nervous, unsure. Her eyes darted around, expecting someone to yell, to throw stones, to remind her that she was not welcome. But no one dared. Not today. Mark was beside her. Calm, steady, protective. His presence was like a wall she could hide behind. And somehow that made her feel taller. As they stopped at a vendor's stall, the merchant stared at Rivka for a long time. His eyes narrowed. "Since when does trash shop with humans?" the merchant muttered. Mark didn't react. He simply paid for the supplies and nodded politely, but Rivka felt her chest twist. The old shame crawled back. As they walked away, she whispered, "Maybe I shouldn't have come." Mark paused. "You have every right to be here," he said. "You're not less than anyone." "But they all think I am," she said, voice soft. "They always did." Mark looked around the square. Alien faces, staring, whispering, judging. "Then maybe it's time we change what they think." Word traveled fast across the colony. The human brought the orphan girl into town again. She walks beside him now, like a female, like she belongs. Some were disgusted, others curious, a few silent, but one alien wasn't silent at all. His name was Dralkin, a tall, muscular male from Rivka's own species. His scales were polished black, his horns trimmed to warrior length. He had always walked with pride and cruelty, and he had hated Rivka since they were young. He approached them near the water tank at the colony's center. Mark noticed him first. His stance was wide, aggressive. His followers stood behind him like shadows. Dralkin spoke loudly, for others to hear. "So, this is how low humans have fallen," he said. "Mating with the unwanted." Rivka froze. Her fingers clenched the basket tighter. Mark stepped forward calmly. "Say what you mean." "I mean," Dralkin growled, "this thing isn't even considered female among her kind. No one wanted her, not even as a bed servant. Yet here you are, treating her like she's precious." "She is," Mark said simply. The crowd gasped. Rivka's heart skipped. Dralkin snarled, "You insult our traditions." "No," Mark said. "Your tradition insults her." The alien warrior stepped forward, claws twitching. "Then prove she's worth something. Face me." Mark raised an eyebrow. "Face you?" "Yes. A challenge. If you win, she may walk beside you. If you lose, she goes back where she belongs. Behind the waste bins." Rivka's breath caught. Mark looked at her. She shook her head in panic. "Don't." He's strong. But Mark smiled softly. "I'm not doing this for pride," he said. "I'm doing it for you." Then he turned back to Dralkin. "I accept." The crowd gathered quickly in the open square. It was a tradition among Rivka's people, challenges to prove strength, worth, or dominance. They didn't always end in death, but bruises were expected. Mark removed his jacket and stood tall. He didn't look scared. Rivka stood to the side, terrified. What if he lost? What if they hurt him? Dralkin lunged first, fast and wild. His claws sliced the air, aiming for Mark's chest, but Mark dodged, stepped to the side and punched hard, right in the ribs. The alien staggered. Gasps echoed around them. Dralkin charged again. This time he struck Mark's shoulder, tearing the shirt. Mark winced but stood firm. He grabbed the alien's arm, twisted and swept his leg, slamming Dralkin to the ground. The crowd went silent. Mark didn't raise his fists again. He just stood over the warrior and said, "Stay down." Dralkin growled but didn't move. The challenge was over. Mark turned and walked back to Rivka. She stared at him, eyes wide with disbelief. "You fought for me?" He smiled, breathing hard. "Of course I did." "But why?" "You could have walked away." "Because you matter, Rivka. I'd fight 100 more if that's what it takes for them to see you." Tears filled her eyes, and in that moment, the crowd saw her differently, not as the broken orphan, not as the unwanted, but as the girl for whom a human fought. That night, back in Mark's ship, Rivka sat near the heater, watching him clean the small wound on his arm. She crawled closer, shyly. "Can I help?" He handed her a cloth. She gently dabbed his arm, her fingers trembling. "I've never had someone defend me," she whispered. He looked at her. "Then let this be the first time, not the last." She smiled softly. For the first time, without fear. The world outside still judged her, but inside that ship with Mark, she was finally seen and worth fighting for. The days passed more gently now. Rivka no longer hid in the shadows. She walked beside Mark. She helped clean his tools, cook small meals, and sometimes just sat silently near the heater, watching the stars blink outside the ship's window. But, deep inside her heart, one question remained. Why is he really here? He had never said. Not fully. One night, as the sky above the colony glowed purple and blue, Rivka sat on the floor of the freighter, folding blankets. Mark was cleaning a weapon piece at the small table. She looked up at him. The light made his face look softer. "Mark?" He glanced at her. "Why did you come here?" He paused. "I mean," she continued, "this planet is broken. No one visits unless they're running from something or hiding." Mark stayed silent for a long moment. Then he leaned back in his chair. "I came here to look for someone." Rivka tilted her head. "A friend?" He shook his head. "My fiancé." The words hit her chest like ice. She didn't say anything. He continued, voice calm, almost too calm. "She was part of a medical team, came to this colony 6 months ago. There was an accident, a fire, then a riot. She went missing." Rivka swallowed hard. "You think she's still alive?" Mark nodded slowly. "She was smart, strong. If anyone could survive here, it would be her." Now Rivka understood. He wasn't here for trade or adventure. He was here for love. That night, she lay on the cot, eyes open. She had started to believe she meant something to him, that maybe she was special. But now, how can I compete with someone like that? She turned her face to the wall and cried silently. The next morning, Rivka acted differently. She kept her distance, didn't speak much. She avoided eye contact. Mark noticed. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded too quickly. "Just tired." He didn't press. But she knew he saw the lie. She busied herself with cleaning, fixed a broken drawer, gathered food supplies. But her heart was heavy. Later that day, as they passed through the market square, something strange happened. A child, small, dirty, trembling, ran out from behind a stack of crates and crashed into Rivka's legs. The little alien girl looked up, eyes wide with fear. "Please don't hurt me," she whimpered. Rivka knelt down. "It's okay," she said softly. "I won't." The child's face was covered in dust. She looked just like Rivka had once looked. Unwanted, alone, lost. Mark walked over slowly. "Is she hurt?" "No," Rivka said. "Just scared." The child whispered, "I haven't eaten since yesterday." Without a word, Rivka pulled out the small fruit she had saved from breakfast and handed it to her. The girl took it, bit into it hungrily, and tears ran down her cheeks. "You're kind," she whispered. Rivka smiled, gently. "So are you. You're brave." The girl ran off into the crowd, disappearing. Mark watched her go, then turned to Rivka. "You remind me of her," he said. Rivka blinked. "Of who?" He looked out across the square. "My fiancée. She was like that too. Always helping someone. Always giving, even when she had nothing left." Rivka lowered her gaze. "I'm not her." "I know," he said. Silence followed. "I'm not strong like she was," Rivka added. Mark turned toward her fully. "You are." She looked up. "You survived things she never faced," he said. "You lived when others gave up. You still care even after all the pain. That's strength, Rivka." Her lips trembled. "But I'm not beautiful. Not valuable. I was never chosen." "Stop," he said gently. "You don't have to be chosen by others to be valuable." His voice softened more. "You chose to keep going, that's enough." Rivka's eyes filled. And just like that, the pain she'd been holding finally broke. She dropped the basket she was carrying and stepped forward. Mark opened his arms without a word. She buried her face in his chest, crying, quietly but deeply. "I don't want to be alone anymore," she whispered. "You're not," he said. "Not now." That night they sat on the edge of the ship, legs dangling off the metal ramp. Stars sparkled above like dust on black silk. Rivka spoke softly. "Mark, if you find her, your fiancée, will you go with her?" He hesitated. "Don't know," she nodded, eyes on the ground. "But," he added, "even if I do, I'm not leaving without making sure you are safe, loved, cared for." She looked up, surprised. He smiled. "You matter too." She didn't know what to say, so she rested her head gently on his shoulder. They didn't speak for a long time, but they didn't need to, because for the first time in her life, someone stayed. The announcement echoed across the colony like thunder. All unclaimed orphans and non-bonded females will be relocated in 3 days to outer mining sectors. This is the law. Rivka stared at the speaker pole, her legs frozen in place. Her heart dropped. Everyone in the market turned and whispered, "She's still here. She's on the list for sure." They'll ship her off with the others, finally. Mark arrived just in time to see Rivka standing still, eyes wide, basket trembling in her hands. "What happened?" he asked. She looked at him, tears. "Building. They're sending me away," she whispered. "The law. I'm still counted as unclaimed. As unwanted." Mark clenched his fists. He had read about the relocation zones. They weren't homes. They were work camps, harsh, cold, and dangerous. Once sent, no one returned. "They can't do that," he said. "They can," she said, her voice cracking. "I'm not a child anymore. I'm not bonded, not claimed. They said, if no one speaks for me, I'm gone." Silence stood between them for a long moment. Rivka looked down. "It's okay, this was always going to happen." "No," Mark said firmly, "you're not going anywhere." "But what can we do?" she asked. "You're human. You don't belong to our system." He hesitated, and then spoke clearly. "There is one way." She looked at him confused. "If I claim you," her breath caught. What? What do you mean? In your culture, he said slowly, if someone chooses you for bonding, they can't relocate you, right? Rivka's face turned pale. Yes, but that's for mates. It's a life bond. You'd be tied to me forever. Mark nodded. I know. She shook her head, stepping back. No, you don't understand what you're saying. It's not just words, it's a sacred vow. My people take it seriously. Once you say it, I mean it, he said gently. Rivka stopped. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Why would you do this? She asked in a trembling voice. You don't love me. I'm nothing compared to her, the one you're still looking for. Mark walked closer. His voice softened. You think I don't see you? That I'm still waiting to find someone else? She didn't answer. He took her hand. I came here looking for someone I lost, but I found someone who's never been seen. And now I can't look away. Rivka couldn't breathe. I'm not perfect, she whispered. No one is, he said. I'm small, weak, my body's wrong. I'm not even. You are you, he interrupted. And that's enough. Her lips trembled. Are you sure? She asked. They'll talk. They'll judge. If you claim someone like me, they'll laugh at you. Mark smiled softly. Let them laugh. While you and I build a new life, far from their cruelty. That evening, Rivka walked through the colony like a ghost, but this time not because she was unseen. Everyone saw her now, because beside her walked a human, holding her hand. They stopped at the council's bond station. A recorder watched, from behind a desk. Name? He asked without emotion. Mark Delaney, the human said. Do you understand the meaning of this ritual? The rights, the duties, I do, Mark replied. Name of the female? Mark looked at her and smiled. Rivka. The recorder blinked, then raised an eyebrow. There will be questions, he warned. Let them come, Mark said. The man marked the documents and raised a scanner. Place your hand here, he told Rivka. Her fingers shook as she placed her small hand against the plate. Now you, the man told Mark. The scanner beeped. Bond confirmed. The council worker looked up. It is done. As they walked back through the crowd, aliens stared. Some sneered. Some looked away. But some were silent, confused, unsure. A few even looked curious. But Rivka didn't care. Her heart beat fast, her chest full. She looked up at Mark. I still don't understand why, she said. Why would someone like you choose me? He stopped, turned to her and brushed a strand of hair from her cheek. Because no one ever gave you a reason to believe you were enough, he whispered. So let me be the first. She stared at him with wide, wet eyes. And the last, he added. That night, Rivka lay in the same bed as before, but it felt different now, like it belonged to her too. Like she wasn't just a guest. She looked at her hand, where the scanner had marked her skin with a faint glow. A symbol of bond, of belonging, and for the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid of tomorrow. Because someone had chosen her, not for her beauty, not for power, not for need, but from the heart. The next day, the sun rose slowly over the colony, casting golden light across the steel rooftops and dusty roads. But something was different. Something had changed. Rivka stood quietly outside Mark's freighter ship, dressed in the same simple cloth dress, but today, it no longer felt like borrowed clothing. Today, it felt like her own. The scanner mark on her hand glowed faintly under the morning sun, reminding her that what happened last night wasn't a dream. She had been claimed. Chosen, protected, loved, not because someone pitied her, not because someone used her, but because one human looked past everything the world said about her and saw who she really was. Word spread like fire through the colony. The human claimed the orphan girl, the one no one wanted. It's official, now. He really did it. Some aliens laughed, others were disgusted, but many simply didn't know what to say. And as midday came, The colony council called for an announcement. A crowd gathered near the center of the square. It wasn't unusual for the council to give speeches, but today felt heavier. All eyes turned as Rivka arrived, walking slowly, hand in hand with Mark. The gasps were loud. She's really here. He brought her out in public, again. He's not ashamed of her. Rivka's heart pounded, but she walked tall. For the first time, she didn't look down. The head counselor stood at the podium. In accordance with bonding law, he said, Rivka of the slums is now recognized as a legally protected female of this colony. She may no longer be relocated, sold, or ignored. Murmurs ran through the crowd. And as for the human, the counselor continued, you have made a bold choice. You stand alone against our traditions. You may be mocked, even rejected. Are you certain this bond is what you want? Mark stepped forward. I'm more than certain. He turned to the crowd, his voice loud and clear. You looked at her and saw weakness. I saw someone who survived every day you ignored her. You called her trash, I call her mine. Silence. Rivka felt her chest tighten. Her fingers gripped his hand harder. Mark wasn't just defending her now. He was declaring her worthy in front of the whole colony. Not in the shadows, not in whispers, in front of the world. After the announcement, the crowd began to shift. Some left quickly. Others stayed, watching. A few even nodded with quiet respect. But the most surprising moment came from the smallest place. A little alien girl, maybe 5 or 6, ran up to Rivka and tugged her dress gently. Rivka looked down. The child smiled. You're pretty, she said. Rivka blinked, stunned. Before she could reply, the child ran back to her mother, who gave a small, respectful bow toward Mark, and then toward her. Rivka's heart couldn't take it. She turned to Mark and whispered, Did you see that? He smiled. They're starting to understand. She shook her head, blinking tears away. No, I think I'm starting to understand. He raised an eyebrow. Understand what? That I'm not invisible anymore, she whispered. Later that evening, the colony was quiet. The stars returned to the sky, shining gently through the thin clouds. Inside the freighter, Rivka sat beside Mark on the floor, both of them drinking. From small cups of sweet root tea, she leaned her head on his shoulder. What now? She asked softly. Mark looked ahead. We live. Together. One day at a time. She smiled. I've never had that before. He placed his cup down and looked at her. I still don't know where my old life is going, he said honestly. Maybe. One day I'll get a message, or maybe I won't. She nodded. And if she's still alive? I'll thank her, he said, because losing her led me to you. Rivka's eyes filled with tears. You saved me, she whispered. No, Mark replied. You saved yourself. I just saw you. She crawled into his lap, hugging him tightly. I want to be with you forever. He held her close. You already are. Outside, the wind moved gently across the colony, and for the first time in years, no one laughed at Rivka. No one called her trash. No one looked away. They saw her, really saw her, as a bonded female, as someone who mattered, as someone loved by a human who didn't care what the world thought, and deep inside her heart, the little alien girl who used to eat scraps, whispered, one final truth. I was never nothing, I just needed someone to see me.